Welcome to Deep Sky Deep Skydiving. Deep, deep. But here we are, deep skydiving.
Yeah.
Deep skydiving, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
The podcast.
Father, thank you. Thank you, Abba. Hallelujah. Thank you for everything, man.
Yes, God.
Thank you for everything. New days, new beginnings, relationships, love, everything, Father. Have your way at this time. Be with the people who hear us. Be with us. Let our mouths speak with clarity, with effectiveness. Let the words hit home. Even with this episode, Father, my knowledge of today's topic isn't all that, but I know you're gonna come up. You're gonna come through. You're gonna show up. You're gonna show out. And I pray that the hearers, that when they receive these things, Father, that it'll be something that they could build from, that they could take heed to, take consideration, and even add to the conversation, Father, because we don't know everything. But you got our minds, you got our hearts. Let love flow through us. Let your love just flow through us. Let us be clear, clean, and willing vessels for your use, Father. I thank you. And let this be the best episode yet. It's in your precious Son, Yahushua's name. I ask you all these things, Dad. Amen.
Amen. Welcome to another episode of Deep Skydiving.
I was not dancing.
Okay.
I thought you, just in case you thought I was bopping my shoulders or something.
That's why I hit the shoulders for you.
Yeah, thank you. I needed that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, what's up?
A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah, you having a good week.
Yes.
Good. That's
week is good. It's going by faster than last week, so.
Is it? Why?
Yeah, last week felt like it dragged for me.
Why? Because it wasn't a lot of work to do?
Nah, I had a lot of work to do. It just felt like the days were just going by so long. But this week, it seems like the days are going by faster.
Oh, okay.
Either way, I'm thankful, grateful.
Yeah, I was going to
love
say,
life.
sometimes I feel like I'm grateful for the days to go by faster, but I realize that, like, then it's July, and then, like, we look up and you're
and
like,
then it's
wait.
December.
Right. And
then it's 2024.
Yeah.
Like, damn. That's what you was over here like, has it been two years? And what did you hear me say? I'm like, 2 years?
No,
like, girl,
hardly.
It ain't even one yet. I was
It
like,
has been one.
now it has been one. Yeah.
Rolls eyes. But yeah, it hasn't been
Rolling.
2 years.
Yeah.
But it's like we've been doing this for so long, like together. Like you sent me that picture when we were doing those walks. That was deep skydiving. We didn't even know.
Oh yeah.
That was so we used to. Me and
AJ
during the pandemic. Yeah, during the pandemic, we used to go on these walks. Where in nature, where here you go, where we would. Where we would literally just walk around and talk and just walk for miles sometimes in neighborhoods and just
enjoy life.
Yeah, talk about relationships,
Doing
talk about
together.
being men, talk about being women, and that sort of thing. So, yeah, so that was like the early stages of deep skydiving. Who knew we would be here? So, last topic was about triggers. What's wrong?
Push your phone down.
Is there anything that you want to wrap up about that, or?
I was listening to the last. What about you? Is there anything you wanted to wrap up from it? Or what you took?
So, not really. I mean, I feel like we covered pretty much everything that I had to say about triggers. I think that, there's so many more things that we could explore with that.
Yeah.
Just being completely transparent about, things that trigger us and so forth and so on. But I think I covered everything that I had to say. What about you?
Like I said, I don't have that many triggers. Mm-hmm. But what I did realize when I was listening to it again, I was watching it today while I was at work. Well, I was listening to it while it was playing in my pocket. And I realized that I still have control issues. Like when because when I was listening to when I said my triggers were, I was like, damn, that's because I said, those are control issues. Like I got control issues. Like, I think you remember what I said my triggers were?
No.
All right, so.
Oh, yes, I did. You said, no, because I'm confusing it with the boundaries conversation.
What were the boundaries?
The boundary, it was, you don't tolerate disrespect and like people getting out of pocket, like people calling you out of your name.
Yeah.
Women being belligerent. Like,
so the things that I didn't like, the things that triggered me were because it, how to say this? It removes like my life or things that affect my life out of the realm of my control. And I was like, oh, and I had to be reminded, like, so God is in control. So one of them was, man, I almost want to put it up and listen to it again just to like dissect it. One of them was, I don't like the nagging. When I said I don't like my mother or people nagging me, period. Like if something, especially if I messed up on something and, I apologize or I acknowledge it and you keep going. One of them, it was one that was major in that area. It was the last one I said. I can't remember what it was, but I know it was like, dang, I really have control issues. That's the gist of it though. But I was like, dang, I have control issues. And I realized I need to change my perspective because I can't stop you from doing you. I can't stop Darah from Darring. That's what she gonna do.
Darah gonna Darah.
She gonna Darah, whether you like it or not. Whether it benefits you or not. And you're mad or you're triggered by something because of that. Like it's asking to get this serious response or the bullet out of the gun because of something that you have absolutely no control over. And I was like, oh man, maybe I need to change my perspectives on these things because I don't need to react like that. Like if I don't react off of everybody's disrespect. I don't react off of everything that happens to me. Some things, just growing older and maturing, you just naturally stop reacting to certain things because you realize it's not even worth it. But I guess I just put too much value on those specific things that gets that reaction out of me. And it's because I lost control of that. It's showing me that I don't have control of that situation. And I was like, you don't need to have control of that situation.
Yeah, that's what's up. I think that what I did do, and I like to do this a lot because I talk to people every day, is just bring up the topic and see what their thoughts are in regards to it. The last one or the next one? The last one, the trigger topic, and just like we talked about. Mic with you. I know. I really do, though.
Yeah, you do.
Like, say that again. Say it just like slower. Like I should do that. But just the extreme accountability. Like there were a lot of people who like really agree with that, and I think
there was.
Yeah, like, but
I wonder if they'd agree with it because it sound good.
That was what I was about to say. Look at you, just always jumping the gun, huh?
I'm sorry.
Poor ghost. Pop goes weasel because we say pop. But no, they literally would agree. But I often wonder sometimes if it's just because it is right, and that is something that we're trying to attain. Just like balance, like balance is like in theory, you're really never in balance, but there's something that you always strive for. Like, that it would be great if everything kind of had its time, but you never really experience it at any point. Like something's going to suffer. But I think that, a lot of people agree with that extreme accountability. And then I like that we had, this is props to, definitely you, with I call it the ABCs, even though there really is no like rhyme or reason to it, but it's just the fact that there's A, B, and C. So there's God, there's self, and then there's, going to the other person. Yeah. I love that there was like that roadmap, because I also feel like it's a place to start. Yeah. Like people need points, you know what I mean? And it helps when you have those things that people can like point to, and it just kind of like makes sense. Like I noticed for me, when there are instructions, and we're both reformers, we're both ones.
No, the reason go ahead, finish. I'll tell you why I'm laughing.
Because I like when you
I'm reacting more. I'm reacting to more than what you just said.
Oh, okay.
It's because of what's just been on my mind the past couple of days regarding you and everything, and how I know you're a reformer, and I know you're a high C. And it's some things we could talk after the podcast when we go specifically to it, but it's just the things I've been taking to God praying, and he kept hitting me with like, who she is, like this is what it is, why do you keep, it's like this is what it is. And so it just makes sense because I know like you're the one that is organized, needs structure, like You're not the spontaneous one. Mm-hmm. You're not the one. And I was like, oh man, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
And so,
but I think what the beauty of it is that though I'm not originally that, I feel like God is like just introducing all of these moments where I can choose to be that way.
Yeah.
And I think that I've been choosing that. But it's interesting to see how like I've grown in that way. But that's a control issue too. Just going back to what you were saying.
I know. I was going to say that to you, but I didn't want to be like, you got control issues too.
Oh, absolutely.
But I just wasn't going to say that though.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I definitely do. That's not something that I try to hide.
But the thing is, control issues is never, I don't want to say it's never good. It's never good.
Yeah.
But
I don't know anybody who is.
But what I understand about you is, in this lane is where you can learn how to operate in spontaneity. Mm-hmm. You can learn how to operate under pressure in these, but in this lane, like under structure, under organization, is where Darah operates her best. Mm-hmm. And that's just what it will be, because that's who she is, and that's how I designed her. Mm-hmm. Not AJ.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. I take those things in consideration too.
Yeah.
That everything has its part, everything has its function. Yeah. Like you said, I'm the steering wheel, right?
Man, don't be taking me back. I can't remember.
I know. Anyway,
that was that was like 15 episodes ago or something. I can't remember that.
Was,
I don't even remember if that was on.
I have a great memory. Remember?
Oh, but I remember now the control issue thing, the major one, because I was talking about a situation. I didn't go into detail, but a situation with a guy where it was life or death. I don't want to say life or death situation. It was a bad situation, put it like this, where weapons were involved, and what happened in that situation, what made me realize like I really do have control issues, when I'm just reflecting back and God was showing me, because it's still, me and the dude cool, we talked today, forgave him and everything, but it's just the situation, when I reflect back, it still kind of irritates me, because I know, remember I said my triggers is, I know when I'm triggered, because it'll make me go against my own principles. It'll make me go against what I know is right. That's how I know when I'm really triggered. Mm-hmm. So even when I thought about that the situation itself, not me and the individual, I just want to make this clear. Mm-hmm. When I think about the situation itself, it showed me I had control issues, because what happened in the situations was I started losing relationships. And so people was calling me like, man, I'm gonna have to ask you stay away from, the house, because they got families and everything. And I was going to do that anyway, just because that's who I am. I feel like if I'm into something and it's going to bring danger to you, I'm not going to come over your house. I'm not going to spend time with you in public and everything, because the love I have for you, I want to keep you safe. And so what I was going to do was take care of the situation, because I was looking, I said, man, I lost my girlfriend. I'm losing my brothers. Like, I'm losing my homies. Like, I literally have nothing. All right, let me do this, and that's going to fix all of this situation. Once this is out the picture, all of this is going to be fixed. He was like, yeah, you got control issues. You think you the one, steering this bus. Yeah. And that's when I was reflecting today, when I was listening to it, and I was reflecting today on that situation, God was really showing me, yeah, you got control issues still. Might not be to that magnitude, but you still have to let me guide you. They say, Jesus, take the wheel. You really like, let me take the wheel on this thing and just trust me. And so, yeah.
Nice. Trust is extreme.
Yes, it is.
It's extreme. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. That's another thing that is almost like balance, and like, it's almost like.
Talk to me.
Ideally, you want to trust in God, right? That's what we're told to do. Yeah. That's what we actually, most of us, especially who are believers who have a relationship, we're striving to do. Right. But also we've been conditioned to kind of like control things. Right. Or thinking that we have some level of control. So yeah, I can see how those all.
I think I shared this on a podcast before.
What's that?
Or maybe it was just with you. I can't remember. The story that dude, David Greer, I believe that's his name. Somebody else might have told it, but I heard it from him. No, he's a pastor in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Where he was talking about faith and trust, where, his kid, as a kid, he used to, with his son would come down the stairs and jump off like the fourth step into his arms. And, as the kid gets older, now the kid starts experiencing life more, understanding gravity.
Excuse me. You okay?
It's like,
My bad.
Starts experiencing, understanding gravity, then fell a couple times, know it hurts when you hit the ground, understands that I'm getting heavier, like I'm not a 3-year-old kid no more, I'm getting it. So now it starts to understand life, and because it's starting to gain knowledge, it's starting to lose faith. And so the analogy he was given was, you're my son, I'm always going to catch you, even if it hurts me. Like regardless, I'm always going to catch you. But because once you start getting these experiences, you start putting 2 to 2 together in your head, because logic actually more times than not opposes faith. And so when God say trust me, you be like, but God, if I quit my job, I'm talking to myself, God, if I quit my job today, what am I going to do?
Yep.
Like I gave you specific instructions, do this and then quit.
Yeah.
And I did everything up until the point where I was supposed to quit. And because I did not see what was on the other side, I never jumped off the step.
Yeah.
Instead, what I did was I self-sabotaged all the other things as just to justify my reason for not quitting my job. Wow. So he said, do this and then quit. And so I did those things, but then because I was scared to jump off the porch, I undid those things. And so, that's the thing. Like we say we trust God, but you'll find out how much you really do trust him when it's time to jump off the step.
Indeed.
Yeah. Indeed. But that ain't what today is about.
No, today is about how can we tackle mental health for ourselves and be supportive of our significant others. So,
let's go.
Mental health. Real heavy issue.
It is a heavy issue, and I'm almost like reluctant to talk about it, just because I feel like it's very, especially in this time, this day and time, I feel like it's such a sensitive subject to people that struggle with mental health. Because my bouts with mental health, I know hasn't been as severe or serious as many others, especially people that we may be directly connected to. And
that's one thing that I want to make sure that I express is just that, like, we are not experts, right? We don't know everything. We are learning too, and we do take this subject very seriously. Even if, there's something in here that we may be joking about, it's not to be malicious or anything like that. If it's ignorance, please correct us. We don't have a problem with that. But mental health is a very serious thing. We take it, super seriously. I know myself, I have dealt with some mental health issues, mainly depression. And then we can talk about even how I feel like those things are, I feel like a lot of those things, matter of fact, it's not even something that I feel. I know that those things come from a spirit realm first.
Yeah.
And that might be something that we can tap on too, because I know that's something that you're aware of. And
and I think a lot of people, because of like doctors and their clinical trials and education and everything, a lot of people I know for a fact, they don't want to hear that. We're going to talk it, but they don't want to hear that it's spiritual. Like depression is demonic oppression and everything. They don't want to hear that because they want to believe that you could take a pill for it or something.
Yes.
They want to believe that it's something tangible that you can do. And I'm not saying it's not. I don't know how to say this without sounding insensitive. This is my belief. This is AJ beliefs. I don't think there's a pill that can heal your depression.
I don't believe so either, and that's just my opinion as well.
Right. I almost 100% believe that there's definitely spiritual influence behind these mental illnesses now, or disorders. I don't know. Is ADD is that classified as like a mental disorder or something? Mental illness. So I don't want because people actually take medicine for that.
Yes.
And so I don't want to, because I know it'll sound offensive if I say nah, because people say you can't just be praying ADD away. You can't pray whatever.
ADHD or...
Yeah, you can't pray depression away. You can't just pray these things, anxiety. You can't just pray these things. And I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to... I remember Mo told us this a long time ago. I know he got this from his pastor or somebody else. We say people don't care how much you know; they know how much
unless they know how much you care.
Unless they know how much you care. Yeah. So I like you said, we don't know it all.
No,
definitely don't know it all.
But I think it goes back to what you were saying in regards to logic and being against faith, right?
Yeah.
So it's about the things that we can see, right? Especially on this earth. Like, it's about the things that we can see. It's about the things that make sense. 1 + 1 has to equal 2, that sort of thing. And it really is about the conditioning, right? Like, we were reading, AJ and I have been reading the 4 Agreements. And I know that in the very beginning.
Did we finish it?
We didn't.
We still got that last agreement to go
We
over.
do. It's okay. God's time. So
I just started reading this book again called Finish What You Start.
Ooh, I like it. It don't mean that we're not gonna finish it either.
All right.
But continuing on. When we first started the book, the intro was basically talking about how we have been conditioned our entire lives, right? And that the conditioning that we have is basically based off of somebody else's conditioning. Like, it's like a cycle.
Correct.
Right? And a lot of times, and this is something that we hit on this very podcast, a lot of the times the conditioning that we have is based off of someone's pain. Right? And I feel like a lot of the logic that we have is based off of somebody's pain. Like, I don't want to go through it again, so I'm going to make sure that you don't go through it. Like, a lot of parenting is based off of pain, the way that people's parenting styles are. And no shade, no offense or whatever. You know, you have to do what you have to do. Like, you're doing the best that you can, being the vessel for your child. Shade. No shade at all.
No shade.
Now you're being me. Now you're pulling a me on me. It's okay. But no, so the reason why I'm saying that is because even in this, we're going to be talking about some things that may seem very hurtful or may seem like we're not coming from a sensitive place, but we're definitely coming from a sensitive place. It's just that maybe you may not understand because you have been conditioned to know a thing to be true that has been something that's been passed on generation to generation to generation. Yeah. And that's fine, right? Like, it is what it is, but I also am in favor of not just taking things for face value, like just because somebody told me that the iron is hot.
Yeah.
Because I said it was hot, right? Yeah. And then you get over and you touch the iron and it's not even plugged in.
Right.
So who's the fool?
See, it's funny because what can happen is you go over there, you touch it, and it's not hot.
And that's what I'm saying. It might not even be plugged in.
Yeah, but then when I tell you the iron is hot and it really is plugged in, you can be like, no, it's not. Because now for real, because now you've been conditioned to not believe me. Because the first time you did it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so now you go, yeah.
That's something else. So when we talk about mental health, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you? Was depression the first thing that came to your mind?
So because I'm thinking about how I could relate. I'm always going to think about how I could relate. And so I've had anxiety before and depression.
Okay.
Neither of them. So I've never had a bout with depression until I was like 27 years old. Mm-hmm. And I kind of prided myself on that. And I didn't even know I was depressed. Mm-hmm. I'll put it like that. But before we go, Depression was one of them, and anxiety was.
And I don't
even know if that's is anxiety a mental disorder?
Like yes, it is. As a matter of fact, they're closely related.
All right, cool.
Anxiety and depression. Yeah. They call them, I don't know if they call them sisters or cousins, but one of them, they're like related in a sense of like one is, both of them are expecting things to be other than the way that they are. Yeah. One is just more of a like dormant state. Like, I'm just not going to move. I'm not going to do anything because I'm so, like, caught up in whatever it is. And the other one is more, like, overzealous. Like, I'm going to do everything to try to, like, you know what I mean? Even if it's just inside of my mind. Like, I'm going 100 miles an hour, 50,000 miles, excuse me, not 50,000 miles an hour in my mind to try to figure out what I can do for this event or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So I've dealt with both of those. I don't think I'm trying to think if there's been any other mental illness that I've dealt with.
I think it might be one of those situations like you said, which I disagree with.
What's that?
Where you was like about the emotions thing, where we don't know if we don't name them, like we can't identify with it or we don't know what it is that we're going through. Only reason I slightly disagree with it is because I can't name it, but I know the feeling. And then I know that feeling if I have it again. Mm-hmm. And that's why I said I know what it is. I just don't know how to articulate it. I don't know what the technical name of it is.
Well, I think that's what I was saying, though.
Oh, all right. Well, cool. Then we on the same page. All right, so I love you. We good.
You so silly. No. Because I want to make sure that I clear that up, because maybe somebody else might hear the same thing as you did. But what I was saying is just that we, like, a lot of times we're experiencing things that we don't know the verbiage of, like, expressing it. Not to say that you don't feel it, but just you don't know how to tell somebody what you're feeling. Yeah. So that's what I mean by that. Yeah. But yeah, so with that,
mental health, the parallel I was making, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The parallel I was making is, I don't know all the mental health terms or anything. Mm-hmm. So there's a possibility that we may have had bouts with something else and just don't know what
that part. Yeah. That's so true. Because, and also I'm not, like I say, I'm not well versed. I did work at the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. Yeah. So there were a lot of, shout out to them. There were a lot of terms that I did learn while I was working there. But I still haven't been able to retain, there are like literal, like a bunch of terms for like psychiatry or things that people are going through as far as their mental health.
All right, so here's 4 types of mental health.
What's that?
Which all has, I guess, diagnosis under it. Okay. That is mood disorders.
Okay.
Anxiety disorders, personality disorders, and psychotic disorders.
Ooh.
We don't need to hit on all of them, but we can just do what, I guess.
Because this episode really is about relationship and how to support the person that you're with in relationship. And then, go ahead.
No, I want you to finish.
And then just, being able to identify if you are doing the best that you can to foster or support, the relationship.
Which, just to throw out as the disclaimer right now, because 99% of people are not professionals in this area.
Right.
So even showing that support, we just might not know how to do that. Or we could be trying to support them and just not doing it effectively.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we're doing, is just beginning the conversations. Yeah. Because again, we're not professionals, so we don't know the disorders. And sometimes you might think that the person is crazy, but it's not that they're crazy. They just don't know how to articulate whatever it is that they're saying.
Yeah.
So we're just saying, like, consider the fact that, like, your spouse or your significant other could be experiencing some type of mental health issue, and that, there are ways in which that ways in which you can still be in relationship and still, support them.
Yeah. I think the closer you are to a person, the more you can feel or sense when something's going on, something's off. Just like when you was like, AJ's not on today, or whatever you said. What'd you say to her?
Who? Oh, Tiana.
Yeah.
I told her I said he's not being himself. I said, I think he's mad. I think he's upset. Oh. And she was like, why you say that? And I said, because that wasn't him. I said he wouldn't have just left out like that. That was just very unlike him. So.
Yeah. So.
So I prayed about it, and I addressed it when I got to you, like, you good,
Yeah. So, but we know how when you close to a person, you realize, you can see when something's off, when their moods change, whether you could tell when a person thinking has changed. And I guess when when you spend enough time with people, especially if you love them, and you want to participate in a relationship, you find out what works, to support them. And you can't do anything that's going to make them better, but at least you provide like a soft landing place for them. You provide some kind of comfort for them in those instances.
I feel like just coming back to the whole premise of like why I'm here, as one of the co-hosts of Deep Skydiving, is back to that humanity piece, right? So acknowledging that this other person is not less of a person because they have some sort of disorder or because they are different than me, because they don't process things the same way as I do. Now, mind you, I want to make a clear point that you don't have to be in relationship. You don't have to continue to be in relationship with somebody who's causing you harm, right? You don't want to continue to foster a relationship that is causing you pain, like literal pain. But I do feel like, people are triggered by things, right? So let's say like death. I know death is very triggering for a lot of people. And you know, grief is it's one of those things where you can't even really characterize it because everybody does it differently. Like everybody mourns in a different way. And I know with mourning there can be, you know, mental issues that pop up. There can be people acting out in a way that you've never seen. But I still feel like bringing it back, the humanity is the part that you have to remember. Like, okay, this person lost somebody who was amazing to them, or lost somebody who they valued to, you know, to the highest degree. If they're doing something that I don't see as normal for them, then it may be because, you know, they're acting out, or they're, you know, exhibiting some sort of protest behavior, or they're doing something just to make them feel something. I know I've been in those places where I just needed to feel something. And I've done something that I don't regret it now, but what? Post-traumatic stress disorder.
So that's one I forgot, but that's one I think of.
That.
Yeah, but I don't think I've experienced it to the. Well, I'm pretty sure not everybody experiences the same way.
Right.
But when we think of post-traumatic stress disorder, we think of like people almost like kind of losing your stuff or something. Mm-hmm. That's not how it affects me. But I know that I've had experiences of post-traumatic stress disorder. It just hasn't been in that sense. Mm-hmm. So
how does that show up in your life?
So I hope this makes sense, to where I've been desensitized to things to the point where it may seem like I don't care, or maybe I don't care. Mm-hmm. Like, let me see if I could give you an example. So because I've been around a lot of gunshots when I was younger and shootings and everything, mm-hmm. I don't jump and everything when you hear gunshots. Like a lot of people are like, oh my God. I don't do that. Mm-hmm. And it almost gives off like I don't care. Mm-hmm. And partly it's because, for one, I walk with God, so mm-hmm. I'm not, you know, it just doesn't startle me because I heard it so much, and plus I know, man, if it's my time, it's my time. I'm not about to get shot right here. Mm-hmm. I firmly believe that. And the other thing is because fortunately, I've only lost one homie to gun violence. I got a couple of homies that have been shot before, but I only lost one homie to gun violence. Mm-hmm. So we kind of have like this invincible complex, if that makes any sense. But I don't react to that type of situation the way most people will. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, I heard somebody telling a story where it's not this bad for me, but I can't remember who it was. He was telling a story about, Inky Johnson. Mm-hmm. He was saying he was somewhere and he said it was a shooting and somebody got killed, but everybody kept going on with life normally, like just stepped over the body and just kept going. But that, to me, this is how I look at it. Like, I think that's like a form of post-traumatic stress disorder, because you done been so desensitized to it and everything. Yeah. It's not causing you that stress to where you start panicking and getting anxiety and everything, but it's just not normal behavior in response to what just happened. Yeah. And I feel like I do have that in some situations. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, that's dope. I actually feel like I agree with what you're saying, and I do feel like because of that in my life, and not the necessarily like gunshots and things like that, but like anything really, because I think that I've experienced so many things. So, and not necessarily that I've experienced so many like necessarily like bad things, but I feel like there's always something going on around me, and I feel like I have to be aware of what's happening in front of me. Yeah. So I'm not the yell and scream and run around type person. I am flight though, like that's my defense. Yeah. I'm not a fighter.
I know.
Yeah, so I'm going to get out of the way, but I'm not going to yell and scream as I do it.
Right.
Yeah, so we're going to be gone, but you may not know that we're gone, right? Yeah. And I'm going to make sure that, you know, I'm calm, because I don't feel like I can do anything if I'm not calm. So let me give you an example. Yeah. When we're in the salon.
You think through it.
I think through it. Yeah. When we're in the salon, there can be a full out debacle going on. Like, I'm talking like two people are, you know, arguing. They about to go to fisticuffs, right? I would literally be still cutting hair.
Like, you don't see what's going on in here?
Yeah.
It's chaos.
And that sometimes, I'll stop. Like, if it seems like it's going to escalate to something else, then I've stopped. Like, we've had medical emergencies happen in the shop, whereas but I'm never like that person who's like
panicking.
Oh my, yes, I'm not her. Yeah. For me, it's like, what's the next step? Right. What can I do? You know what I mean? If anything, I'm calling somebody to come and help or whatever, whatever we need to do.
That's beautiful.
But that's not always my response. So there are some things that happen in my life where I can feel it in my body. That's also, so a lot of people experience that. So they say the common phrase that I've heard within the past year or so is that the body keeps the score. So there have been instances where, you might tense up. You don't know why you're tensing up, but there's something that your body remembers. Like, you may not remember it necessarily right away, but your body remembers it. And it could be somebody yelling, like for me, like my dad was a rager. So it could be somebody yelling and my body is like, and I don't know it. Like, I might notice like my grip is a little tight or something, or my palms are sweaty or something like that.
It's just a natural reaction. It's conditioned to react like that.
Yeah. And that's PTSD too.
Yeah.
And I think, and I'm glad that you said that too, because I think that a lot of us are experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder. And I think that's also kind of like grief, where you really like there's no real one lane or even two that it's where it's displayed in a particular way. Yeah. Everybody's kind of like different in the way that they display.
I think mine's reversed or something.
Why is that?
Like, because I remember when I was younger, whenever I would see fights, when I was in a fight, it's no problem. But whenever I would see fights, I would get like chills, like I'm nervous or something or whatever. Whenever I just see people fighting or something, like people that I know. But we done been in so many fights and everything that now it's just nothing to me. Like, you could just be fighting right there and I won't even pay any attention, won't pay any mind to you. Like, man.
Especially if it's not somebody that you need to protect.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but even that, like you said, like I don't think it's a reverse. It's just like we talked about fight or flight. Like at this point, you talked about desensitization too, which I don't think is the same thing. But I think you were saying like
I think that's my version of PTSD. That's why I said it's not common. It's not like everybody else's. It's just being desensitized to these things and just not caring kind of. Is my form of,
or that's the trigger itself. Like you're making it seem like it really is desensitization, but maybe your body literally starts to shut down. Like you don't even have control over it. So you're not telling your body, calm down, AG, calm down. No, your body is literally keeping the score. It
stays the same. Like, it doesn't do anything to
dude, you might have to fight. So calm down.
I've never had to calm down. Like, that's what's crazy. Like, I don't get nervous for the things most people get nervous for. But that funny.
In and of itself can be you reacting to a trauma.
It may be. But I've, like how you said you are, where you said things could be going on and you think your way through it. I think God has just graced me with a personality that does not panic.
Yeah, and that's a good thing.
Like, if there's a situation that kind of wants to encourage panicking, that's not how my brain just doesn't react to that. My brain reacts similar to how yours does. Like, all right, well, and I'm a male, my brain goes to, what do we got to do to fix this situation? Not even just get out of it, like fix this situation. Like, let's neutralize this. And quick story, this is it's hilarious. Me and James was coming from the casino one day, BW Parkway, coming from Merlin Live. And it's nighttime. Had probably midnight. It's probably after midnight. And we're driving. And I was in my Camry. It's back then when I had my Camry. I'm driving in my Camry. And it's a big old Lexus truck in front of me, SUV. Huge Lexus SUV. I don't even know what the name of this joint is. But we balling. Probably doing about 75. Going down BW Parkway middle of the night. Not thinking nothing of it. We just flying down the Parkway. The truck starts to switch lanes. And I'm just thinking the truck switching lanes or whatever, because we've been flying probably about 10 minutes already. And when the truck switched lanes, it hits the back of this Volvo truck.
Oh my God.
I did not know that it hit a Volvo truck because I couldn't. The truck is so huge. I did not see
what was in front of it.
I just saw the truck lift up, like the front of the truck lift up as if it was popping a wheelie. And I said, oh shit. And James was on his phone in the passenger seat. like this. And when I said, oh shit, he looked up and he said, oh shit, because you see the truck like riding a wheelie going down on the parkway. Volvo. Nah, I didn't see the Volvo first. The truck.
It just looked like it was just up.
It looked like it was just, yeah.
Wow.
But what happened was, as it was popping the wheelie, and mind you, it was in the right lane because it was switching lanes. So it was like 3/4 in this lane, 1/4 in my lane. It turned over on the two wheels on the driver's side. And so when I seen that, I knew it was going to try to come over. And so James sitting here, mouth wide open. And I see it, and I try to slam on brakes so that we don't hit this truck. And when I slam on brakes, everything is slowing down. I realize we are going to smack this joint. And so my brain just told me, hit the gas and try to make it around it. And so I smashed the gas on it, and the truck starts coming over, and boom. So now his driver's side is on my passenger side, and the truck is still up like this.
Wow.
And James is all like this on me, knocking my head off my head. He all like, ah. And I said, I lied to you, now you gotta ask him. I lied to you. I said, nigga, get off me. I'm trying to save us. I turned the steering, and now this was the dangerous part. We was right on the overpass of 495. So where 295 drives over 495, we're right there on that, and the truck is pushing, this heavy truck is pushing my Camry to the guardrail. And so I don't even know how I thought this through, but I just turned the wheel all the way to the right, and I'm hitting the gas trying to get us off the median, get us off the curb. And as I turned the wheel, it sent the truck back down on all fours, and then my Camry drove off into the street. And I had 3 flat tires on it and everything, and we just sitting there, and James was like, hey, what the? And I'm looking, I was like, no lie. I said, man, I must be James Bond or something.
Oh my God.
No, because I don't even know how, it's just how my brain processed. It wasn't panic, it was fix this situation, alter this, change up how, like, we not about to die right here. This ain't how this gonna go. And so I don't even know, but that's why I said it's just the grace of God. God just graced me with a brain that will analyze a situation. Like, I work very well under pressure. Like, in spontaneous moments, I respond very well, and that's just how that is for me. I don't know how. Yeah. But I don't react. I don't panic. I don't react sporadically like most people would in most situations. I know that's not PTSD. That's always been me. But the desensitized part, I know for sure that comes from trauma.
Got it. Okay, so since we both dealt with depression and anxiety, though,
where did yours come from?
So my depression, now that I'm thinking about it, my depression came from an event that happened when I was in college. An event that I'm not even really ready to talk about at this point. At this moment, maybe down the line in the season, but it was something that happened to me. But it wasn't until maybe within the past 3 to 5 years that I realized that was the reason why I had been thrown into that. Because at first I thought that it was because I didn't, while I was in college, I wasn't happy with the major that I majored in biology.
You put it on something else.
I put it on something else. When really I was okay before that. Yes, I had been, kind of like battling with it on and off before I'd even come to college because it was a different scene, right? Like I moved to Washington, D.C. from Chicago. And I was just used to my everyday. I was used to my grandfather, my mom, and my sister at that time being in the house, like having that routine. And it was kind of like, you're about to go off to school. Now, mind you, my grandfather passed. He was one of my favorite people, right? And then it was like, okay, well then, like, now it's time for you to go. My mom was like in a new relationship. Like, it was just a lot happening. And I don't feel like anybody was emotionally available, or even not even necessarily emotionally available. Let me just say, I don't think anybody was available at all to process whatever it was that I was going through.
Right.
And nobody knew at that time, because I don't feel like therapy really became something that people like talked about. It wasn't like really a
popular thing.
Right.
Black people in therapy didn't always go together.
No. And like the accessibility too, because of that, right? Like we're thinking that therapy is something that rich white people do. And this is just me being honest at the time. So when I was going through that, like my mom noticed it because she noticed that like I started to eat a lot more. I was always athletic. I was in every sport you can imagine in school. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't like my diet was always like kind of consistent for a while. And then I was a certain size. And then it was like I was sleeping a lot. I was eating a lot and so forth and so on. So when those things changed, my mom was just giving like, girl, what is going on? You know? But at that time, like, she knew that something was different, but she didn't know how to, like, she's just asking me. And I'm just like, I'm good. Let me get 2 spicy chicken sandwiches with extra cheese.
3 scoops of ice cream.
Right. And a Diet Coke. Yeah. But no, it was given that. So my mom, because of the fact that she was in a new relationship, she was also just trying to figure out, like, she was getting to know the man who she ended up marrying, right? Like, she ain't, I don't blame her for that. Maybe I did at some point, but I don't blame her for trying to do her life. But I thought that the depression that I experienced, it started in my junior year of college, whereas I knew that there was something going on, because I was like to the point where I was like sleeping away my days, and I would wake up and then I would the task of doing every day became as big as an elephant. Like that's the metaphor that I give.
Got you. Yeah, it makes sense.
So each day I would get up and I would say, I'm going to go about this day. I'm going to do this day.
The days were getting harder, even though they were the same.
Exactly. And so I would not take part in the day. Yeah. And I realized that it became bigger like that year. So that junior year, but it was the summer before I came back that the event happened. Mm-hmm. And I never processed it, but I also never told anybody because I was embarrassed by it. Yeah. And so that was the elephant. It wasn't the day. Yeah. The event was the elephant. But I decided, because of who I am, I was going to try to mask it and just keep doing life, but not doing it like not doing a full life. Yeah, effectively. So I was just doing the bare minimum so that people wouldn't ask me questions. And then when people just was looking up like, why you not, you always got this hair wrap on, like, what's going on with your hair? I would do that because I didn't comb it. Yeah. And then there were days where I wouldn't shower. Like, it was bad. Like, it was really, really bad. Yeah. And you know me, like, I'm 2-3 showers a day sometimes. Yeah. So at that time,
she washed my hands for me if I let her.
I would, but control. But I just had gotten to a space where it was like I couldn't go to any of my classes. Like, I ended up having to do a total withdrawal from the university at the time. Like, it just became a lot. I was lying. I was becoming deceptive to the people that I loved. The deception was me, like, doing the minimal, like the bare minimum.
It grew.
It grew. It became so big. Yeah. Like, it went from an elephant to a forest. Yeah. And it was all here.
Because it was unaddressed.
Yeah, it was all in my head. Yeah. And then I realized, and now coming through it, and praise God for being able to come through it. Now I realize that the reason why, and I tell anybody who I talk to about depression, I tell them this: what makes it so hard is that you try to do it by yourself. Mm-hmm. What makes it so hard is that you try to live in the darkness alone. And when you talk to people, what you do is you shed light on the situation, and that light breaks up that darkness. Yeah. Because sometimes all you need to know is that you have support from other people. But the reason why it festers, which is why I say it's a spiritual thing too. Mm-hmm. But the reason why it festers is because you've made up in your mind that it couldn't possibly be something anybody else has experienced. Yeah. And that's, to me, is the enemy's work, right? That's the demonic sense of it, right? Like, making it seem like you are isolated. Yeah. You're the only person who's ever dealt with this. Yeah. No, I'm not. First of all, I'm not the only person who's ever dealt with the event that happened to me, mm-hmm. right? There's been plenty of people who've experienced that, men, women, etc., right? There have been plenty of people who haven't been happy with being in the university, you know what I'm saying? Or a part of the major that they're majoring in. People who don't want to be in college generally, right? Who have parents who have these heightened expectations of them. Like, it was just lies that I was telling myself. Right. And sometimes people don't realize that the enemy is not necessarily something like, with that's red with 2 horns, that we've drawn out, right? The devil character. Sometimes it's your inner me, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's the things that I'm telling myself about what's happening right now.
Yeah.
So what the lies that I was telling myself, and that's also something I tell the people who are going through depression, be careful what you're lying to yourself about.
Yeah.
Right? What parts are true? And what part are you literally just making up? So I told myself that I was the only one going through it. I told myself that my friends wouldn't understand. I told myself that my mom wouldn't understand. I told myself that my mom would be disappointed in me if I told her what was really going on. Mm-hmm. I told myself that I could never get out of school. I told myself that if I kept it up, then people wouldn't notice. Yeah. These are all lies, you know what I mean, that I'm getting, that are going on in my brain. Nobody else knows this stuff. And I'm literally just filing them.
Yeah.
Here we go. There's a new folder every morning.
Piling up. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, what is your experience with
depression?
Yes.
So I've never, because, I'm pretty much unbothered by a lot of things. Mm-hmm. So I've never experienced depression until I ran into the Jezebel spirit. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't talk to the people that I wanted to talk to because of the situation. It was like I was kind of put away where I can't come here. I can't come here. Now, I'm not saying I couldn't have reached out to the people on the phone, but the way the situation was, I was hurt, I was angry, and I didn't want to reach out to them. Mm-hmm. And what made my situation hurt so much is because while I was going through what I was going through alone, I was still ministering to people, like at my job. Mm-hmm. Like people would still call me. People didn't know what I was going through and still calling me for advice. Mm-hmm. And I still have to, put the mask on and still do the godly thing, because just because I'm going through doesn't mean that I should deprive yourself of the blessing that you may receive from my life. Mm-hmm. So meanwhile, I'm going through this depression and everything. I'm over here, feel like I don't have anybody, feel like my brothers left me, like I'm all alone, don't have no kind of companion, got to figure everything out by myself again. Mm-hmm. So it was like I was reliving my whole growing up, becoming a man, because not having a father figure or anything, you got to figure everything out on your own. Mm-hmm. So now I'm like, man, I done came this far with these people, and now I don't have these people anymore. And it's not because something happened. Mm-hmm. It's not because just a natural events where we grew apart or anything. It's because there is an intentional separation right here. Mm-hmm. And so I know what Jezebel wants to do is it wants you to isolate yourself. I didn't isolate myself. I was actually isolated. Mm-hmm. It was more of that. And meanwhile, I'm going to work and I'm seeing God come through in people's lives that I'm ministering to and praying for and everything. Meanwhile, I'm going through this whole bout with depression. Like I'm going to work and you can laugh, joke, have fun at work. I go home, I'm by myself. I still got to deal with these things. And now I'm at home. I wasn't crying or anything, but I was crying out to God, like figuratively. Mm-hmm. Like, man, why am I going through this? To the point where I think I shared this with you before too. I don't know, maybe not on this podcast, but my other one, where I told God, I prayed, I said, man, you might as well not wake me up tomorrow. Mm. Because I'm watching him come through in people's lives, and I'm like, but I'm going through this. So I was like, man, you might as well not wake me up anymore. Mm. Because I was like, I'm not going to serve you. My faith ain't going nowhere because I know God is real. Like I know Yahushua is real. But I just made up my mind as, man, you might as well not even wake me up in the morning, man, because I said I can't do this. I was like, this can't.
I had those thoughts too.
Yeah. Now I would never, ever, ever, ever kill myself.
No, that's not what you're saying at all.
Never had and just for future reference, if something does happen and they say that I committed suicide, it's a 100% lie. I did not do that.
Definitely a murder.
So even in that time, I never contemplated suicide. Mm-hmm. I wanted to die, but I was not going to die in my own hand.
That's what it was for me too. It was never like, it was just one of those things like, if I don't wake up tomorrow, like it'll be okay, but you're still just hiding from, you're running from.
That's it. I wanted the end. You want the pain in. So I get that.
Reality. Yeah.
Right. And I'm talking about, and miraculous things was happening, man. My man Tony, this was when we was building the African American Museum. I was working with my man Tony. My man Tony used to have anxiety, panic attacks. He wake up. Tony a big dude. Tony probably like 6'4", all of 260, like, and it's not fat. Mm-hmm. Like I'm talking about
muscle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he's married to his wife is not big. His wife's probably 5'6" or something, average sized woman and everything. He told me it got so bad to the point where he would be waking up in in the middle of his sleep, like panicking and everything. You got this big black dude in the bed, waking up panicking in the middle of the night, you know, scare his wife and everything. And so he used to have to take medication for that and all that. And when I was working with him, he's sharing these things with me and everything. And, you know, I'm just encouraging him through it. And we end up growing tight together. This is our first time meeting and even working with each other. We just grow tight. And I was just praying for Tony and everything. And then some months went past and we was talking. We was working in the basement. We was talking. He's like, so, man, you know, ever since I started working with you, I never had a panic attack.
Oh, wow.
He said, I didn't even remember. He said, haven't been taking my medicine. And I hadn't had a panic attack since I started working. He said this out of his mouth.
Wow.
And I didn't explain to him, you know, like, yeah, man, I was praying for you, this and that. We was talking about God a lot. And he was talking about getting back into church and all that. But I already knew what it was. Because I know I'm not tooting my own horn because it ain't got nothing to do with me. But I do know that when I get involved in people's lives, it's not something that I do intentionally. But whenever God places me somewhere with people and we get tight, something like always drastically changes in their life. It's always something noticeable, something big. And all this time, I'm still going through my depression.
Yeah.
Even with my man Mike. My man Mike is this white dude from Calvert County. We don't relate in any way possible except for the fact that we cool with each other. Like we don't have the same background, anything. White boy from the country. His wife couldn't have children. So they had what's it called when you get like the artificial insemination? Yeah. So they had that and had a son. But she couldn't have children naturally. And so God had told me, I went to Mike, told Mike what God told me and everything. And then he came back to me like a month and a half later. Was like, man, so you're not gonna believe this. I was like, what's up? He said, man, Kate's pregnant.
Oh, wow.
I said, I thought you said she couldn't get pregnant. He said, I thought she couldn't either. That's what they told us. And he had a full-term pregnancy, healthy baby girl. And I'm watching all this stuff happen. Meanwhile, I'm going back home by myself, nobody to talk to about what I'm going through and everything, and just hurting. And nobody knew. Yeah. That was my bout with it, and I really had to duke that thing out with God. I didn't take any medication. I ain't had nobody couch to sit on. I mean, I sat on my own couch and went to God with it. But it was a fight. It was a real dark time.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's pure darkness. And I really liked in your story how you were talking about what's happening around you. Yeah. Because that was actually one of the waking points of my life. Like in me talking to my mom about the situation, her thing was the sun is still rising and setting though. Like you are in your depression and things are still happening around you. But the reason why they're still happening and you're not taking part in them is because of what's happening inside of your brain. Like what you're dealing with, like the lies that you've told yourself and the darkness that you decide that you're living in. Now, when I say decide that I'm living in, that might be painful for a lot of people, right? That might be something that people can't accept, right? Because it's like, I don't want to be here. Like, I don't want to be depressed. And I do feel like there are some people who are dealing with a imbalance of I can't remember what it's called, serotonin or something like that, like dopamine, whatever. Things that normally happen with the body that need to be regulated. So that's a different thing than what I'm talking about. But those individuals who become depressed because of an event and they're suspended there because of an event, those are the individuals that I'm really speaking to. It really has to start with you releasing whatever it is that you're holding on to for dear life. And it's hard because I told somebody that it was almost like a drip. Like, you know how Michael Jackson had the little drip or whatever to make him like go to sleep or whatever drip, to deal with. Yeah. For me, it was that trauma. It was almost like I needed to hold on to it for dear life because that's all I was used to, is like living in that pain. So at some point, it wasn't that I was recognizing it as a pain more than it was just like it would get me through the day, like a drip. Like I would literally. So I'm thinking of, okay, whatever's on the other side of this is super scary because it would mean that I would have to talk about this. It would mean that I would have to, be that person to talk about that bad thing that I did or that bad thing that happened to me. I would have to become the victim. I would have to become then somebody whose business is out here in these streets. And I wasn't ready for that. So then I start holding on to, whatever that event was, whatever that trauma was. And I mean, gripping it in my hands. So I'm sorry, what were you?
I'm going to show you. This song is what helped me get through it.
Go ahead, play it.
It's something she said. This is a song by Eshawn Burgundy, right? Mm-hmm. I'm talking about this album. He has 2 albums. They both helped me through the hard times, but it was this song. Like, I cried to this song and everything because of what the girl says in it. Mm-hmm. Hold up, look. When the chorus come up, I want you to hear what the girl was saying. And that's what like gave me, because it's exactly what you was just saying. And this song used to crush me because I know God was using it to keep me holding on, because she said, I know I'm set free, but I feel trapped. She said, I can't let it live, gotta kill that. Talking about those thoughts, the thing that's binding you. And she said that no matter how hopeless, she said, I'm still reminded that there's calm blue skies over Iraq. Because, Iraq was like full out war, but she's saying there's still calm blue skies over Iraq. She said, so there's hope. And the beginning of that song, like I used to listen to the song all the time, because he said, what do you say? The most traumatic events are taking place inside my brain. And while I was working at the African American Museum, I'm telling you, man, it was so much going on just in my personal life and just what I was going through, the hurt and the pain, but ministering into everybody else. And I would just drive home and I'm listening to this junk and I'm like, yeah, this is what gravitated me to him, because I was like, this dude, that's how I know like he's walking in this walk for real. Forget all the other cliche sayings and artists and everything. When I listen to him, I'm like, man, Slim was in this junk for real. And I know, because I'm going through this right now and I'm relating to like every single word that he's saying in this song. And I know God, if it wasn't for anybody else, I know he had to make that song for me. And it's what allowed me to really hold on to that hope that we have in Yahushua. And it's not just for eternal life, but that things will get better here. Like it tells us, man, and I promise you, I'm not saying that there aren't other ways to deal with these mental health issues and everything, right? But in Philippians it says the things that are praiseworthy, because this is where I've learned to become. I was a pessimistic dude back then. At that time, I was a pessimistic dude whenever it pertained to my life and things directly affecting me and people. I was real negative minded and everything. But in Philippians it says, focus on the things that are true, that are of a good report, that are praiseworthy. It's telling you, seeing all these things. He said, meditate on these things, like focus on these things, keep your mind and your thoughts on these things. Meaning when you start, regardless of what's going on, regardless of how this look, especially because it can be a lie, just like you said, addressing a lie, regardless of what you think, what's going on, what's perceived, it says focus on this. So even if our relationship is going rocky, he's like, I need you focus on the fact that Darah is a genuine soul. She has a genuine spirit. She doesn't want, regardless if she might have did something that hurt you. She might not even know that she did something that hurt you. It's a fact that it hurt you. But what's the truth of the matter? What are the good things? What are praiseworthy? Like, she's a generous person. She cares. She loves you. Focus on these things. Because if you keep focusing on the bad of the situation, you're going to stay in that slump. And it took me almost 2 years to really get out of that. And now it disgusts me when I see people that's just so negative about everything. But I can't help but to be reminded that, AJ, that was you. Yeah. And because you went through it and you're out of it, it's going to disgust you, but now you're equipped to walk with those people. It doesn't mean you're going to have all the answers for them, but at least you're equipped to walk with them because you can empathize with them. You got an idea. You have a great idea of what they're going through versus somebody that never experienced those things. And so, like, that song, as I'm saying, that song, man, really helped me through
I like that song
a whole lot. It's deep. I can't listen to it now because it takes me back. It takes me back to that. He has better music. Now, but yeah.
No, I get that. And some things are just for that season, right? Like, you don't have to necessarily have to go back to it. And that's how I feel about that time. Like, the only way that it serves me is for things like this, like being able to talk about it on the podcast to even help somebody else who feels like they are just, I just cannot do another day of this,
Yeah.
And I think that, one thing that is important to understand too about depression is that you just can't, you cannot fathom what it's like to live past whatever it is that you're dealing with, whatever that elephant is. And I'm telling you guys now, whoever's dealing with depression right now, that there is life beyond your trauma and that you're not the only one who has dealt with it. There are people who you can speak to. And that's another thing that I did want to talk about, the things that you can do in order to kind of target, the depression. And we're only specifically talking about depression right now because that's something that we've both experienced. But one of the things is talk therapy, definitely. Prayer is another one. Some people work out. Some people meditate. Some people...
I ran.
Yeah, see?
So, because... I'm sorry, go ahead, because I cut you off.
No, go ahead.
So there's things like... When your body can overcome something in the physical, I don't even know how this works. Because I know it's spiritual. But it's like working out, right? Some people work out because it gives you a sense of accomplishment or something, right? So when I run my 5 miles... When I used to run the bridge, when I used to run the 5 miles, your legs hurting. I'm talking about lower back hurting, legs hurting, especially because the bridge is like just a incline, decline. Then you got to go back, so it's never incline, decline. The whole 5 miles is just up and down, and you hurting through it. But when you fight through that pain and you get to the finish line, it's something that just mentally checks. It's something that turns on in you that'll help you get through other situations like that. It might not be physical, but it's letting you know, like, I can get through this. I can finish this. It's like a sense of accomplishment or success, like hope that I will make it to the end of this. Like life won't always be like this. Yeah. And when you run, when you work out, like I hate running. Yeah. I never in my life liked running. I only did it for physical.
It's a release.
Yeah. I didn't do it for a release. I did it because it was something I was trying to accomplish.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah. No, I'm just saying, like, what's happening inside of your body. You remember you were just saying that, like, you don't know what happens, but where your mind catches up. Like, there literally is something scientifically that's happening in your body too, right? So we know that it's a spiritual thing too, but also, right, there are things being released called endorphins and things like that will help you to move in even a lighter space when you exert physical activity.
And we're going to go back to the law of entropy. Okay. And what did you hear me say? But I'm going to bring up a brief of it. Bring it up briefly right here. If you don't do anything, that's what makes it worse. If you just sit in your depression, if you just sit in it, of course, that's what makes it worse because the law of entropy is basically if you leave anything alone to itself, a level of decay will occur and will continue to occur until it's done. And so when you don't do anything to try to release that depression or whatever the issue is, when you don't do anything to combat it, you have to have something outside of that thing to combat that thing in order to get you through it. Because when you sit in it, it just gets worse.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that that a lot of people need to hear that, like, when you stew, it gets worse. So, y'all just, I can't tell you how to do it. I can't tell you when to do it. I just know that this isn't your stop. And it's unfortunate for those individuals who, they live their entire lives that way because they refuse to, shed light or shine light on it because it's just too embarrassing or, you know what I mean? Like they just don't want to be freed. And that's why talk therapy worked for me. So that was something that I tried when I got back to school, because I knew something was going on. I knew something wasn't clicking. I knew that I couldn't do it alone. And at that time, I wasn't saved.
So you did do therapy at school?
I did. Yep. Yeah. And it thank God, right? Because somebody just told me, like, they offer like service. I think it was my friend, a real good friend of mine, first friend at Howard, actually. And I think she told me about the fact that they had therapists at Howard who were free for students. Who knew? Honestly.
Yeah.
But it's like putting it out there, praying. I don't know. It could have been just something that was dropped into her spirit.
Yeah.
It could have been, because it wasn't like I was like, girl, somebody who can help me through this, get this monkey off my back. Like it wasn't giving that. I was still trying to like fake it till I made it,
And she was like, I see through you. You know they got free therapists here.
I don't even remember the conversation, but I'm thankful for her.
Yeah.
But
thank you, friend.
I might
not have my Darah right now if it wasn't for her. What's her name?
Edelmira.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to repeat that, but thank you.
April, we call her April.
Thank you, April.
Yeah. So anyway, I went to talk therapy, and what encouraged me to be able to, first of all, I didn't talk about what happened.
Yeah.
Just that summer, right? I didn't talk about that. But in me talking to, it was a guy, I had a black guy therapist, the first one that I had. What encouraged me was that I didn't know him, and he didn't know me.
It's easy to talk to.
Exactly.
I ain't got to see you outside here.
But that's a problem for some people, because it's like I'm sharing my business with somebody who...
Complete stranger.
Exactly. Yeah. But so it's weird how that works, right? And that's why I say that there's no one way to get where you need to go. Like, I don't think that talk therapy is for everybody, but it worked for me because I just needed somebody who wasn't invested.
Yeah.
I needed somebody who wasn't even going to tell me if it was good or not, like what I did. I don't need your opinion on whatever is going on in my life. I want to be able to just process it.
Release it, process it.
That's it. It was really a release. But that really started the ball rolling and like really starting to set me free, because I feel like what also happens is, so one thing is like sharing it with another person, even if it's one person, right?
Yeah.
And then there's another thing of saying it out loud so that you can hear it. Because sometimes when you say things out loud, you can recognize them as lies too. Like, that's not even true. Why would you even tell yourself that?
Yeah.
Like, what? Come on. And so there were a lot of times when, exactly. There were a lot of times when I was talking to him, and it was good that he was a man too. You get what I'm saying? Like, so he was just sitting there like some days just looking at me, and it's just like, I'm going through a full meltdown. And
he just sitting there stoic as ever, like.
Yeah. Or he's just like, so that helped. And I don't remember what my point was, but but yeah, so that helped me, the talk therapy, and I continued. So I did that, and I think it helped me to share with other people. So then I became okay with what's happening. Like I started to then, like I said it out loud. It doesn't feel good, but I've started to say it. So it's not strange to hear it. And then when I see that nobody, like the guy who I'm talking to, he doesn't have a reaction to it. It's like, oh, well, maybe there are other people who've been through this too. Like,
I'm glad that's what you thought. That's what you took from it. Because somebody else could have been like,
you're judging me?
You don't even care. Like, I'm just sitting here dying. And
how dare you?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's how I took it. I was like, well, but then also,
he sees
I guess
this all
it was
the time.
because,
I'm not alone.
And then maybe it was also one of those things where I heard it and I was like, girl, it's really not even that deep.
Yeah.
It's really not that deep, but it was deep to me. So yeah. And then like I was about to say that it kept the ball rolling because I started therapy again when I got older. Yeah. Just dealing with some of the things that I had dealt with in my life. So yeah.
And well, since you said that, there is a law, like one of the universal laws. I think it's like the law of relativity, something like that, where this can help. I'm not saying do it. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. But where it's basically like comparing yourself to others. So what you're going through, you look at other people's like, man, their situation is a lot worse. Like, and it makes you realize I could be a lot worse off than this. And it'll plant like some kind of seed of gratefulness or thankfulness to where you start to be able to look at your situation differently.
That's interesting because I always tell people that the comparison is the work of the devil.
The opposite way around. Like if you look at your situation and then you look at somebody that's where you want to be, it can,
Yeah, I always say like I tell my friends that all the time. Like, girl, you really need to start looking at people who got whatever it is that you want because you never know how they got there.
Yeah, so why we never look at the people that don't have what we want.
Right.
Like that has less than us.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. So the law of relativity is telling you, look at the third world country.
Right.
Like it could be worse.
And be grateful. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. That's better.
Which I still, in my heart, I still feel that it's not right, but it can help you in that instance. Because I hate to look at somebody and judge their situation and say that, dang, I could be homeless.
Yeah, because it seems like you're judging them like that's the worst that they could possibly be. And some people are like happy homeless.
Right.
They don't have to pay no taxes.
But if it helps you, I mean, it's a tool that you can use just to help you personally look at your situation different and actually be thankful.
I think about that too. Like one of my homeboys, he's a pastor at Zion. And on Father's Day, he was talking about Uno and like, he one of the metaphors that he used was the swapping hand metaphor, and it was like you really don't want that though, because you might think that the cards that you are dealt have been some terrible. Trippy, but me taking your hand, I might be like, hey, I don't know, like
reverse, swap back, erase that,
because you might have like a green one. A red two, you can't. And I got like draw 4, draw 8, draw,
And they ain't playing train or pile on or none of that.
Exactly.
You can't do nothing.
Exactly. But those hands still win too. But that's not the point. My point is, that sometimes like what you said, like just the gratitude, like you said, what is the law of relativity?
Yeah.
Just being aware of. You so silly, but you do. No, like I'm no hitbacks, like nothing. Like, you definitely teach me, but just understanding that like somebody has something going on that you could never. And just be grateful for where you are. So just to wrap this episode up, I just want to ask you, how can you better support your spouse, your significant other, who is dealing with a mental disorder? In your own words,
just be present. I don't, because I told you I'm not the one that's going to have the words for you. I don't try to give answers when I see people going through deeply like that. I'm not the one that's going to have the answer for you. I'm not the one that's going to have the words for you. I'm the one that's just going to be present. So I know that might not work for everybody. Some people, they want to be consoled and they want to be talked to. They want to be told it's all right. I'm not that guy. Like, I don't want to be told it's going to be all right. Like, don't tell me you love me, show me. I want to see that it's going to be all right. Telling me that, I feel like you're kind of antagonizing me or something. It's not what you're doing. That's just what it feels like. But just being present, I think that's the baseline for everybody. Just be present. Even when somebody says, I just want to be alone, everybody needs somebody. And at some point in time in everybody's life, they want to know that they're cared for. They want to know that they love. And that's the only thing. Love on people. Like, just be present, be available to love those people, be available for love. And sometimes they'll tell you what they need, like in their actions or maybe verbally, they'll just tell you what they need. But just be available, just be present. That's what I would do. I can't.
What's so powerful about what you just said about being present? I think that's also a remedy. And we didn't even get to like touch on anxiety. And I mean, really many of the different mental, health.
I think depression is like a big one though.
Depression is a huge one. Yeah. Because I feel like people be like towing that line in every day. But just when you say being present, I feel like a presence of self is something that also helps people with a lot of those type of disorders, like, having depression and or anxiety. Because again, like I told you, the depression is just, the buildup and like, staying still and thinking that you are conquering or that nothing is happening because you're not doing anything. And then the anxiety is just like you moving in like fast motion, trying to, make things other than the way that they are or anticipate what will happen. When you are present, they call it mindfulness. You're aware of that? just being like, and it also deals with the relativity thing too, right? Understanding where your place in this, on this earth, even if it's not, you're not thinking necessarily religiously, but you're thinking of the fact that, like, you know, I have these 10 fingers, I have these 10 toes, and you just sit with yourself, sit with, you know, where you are in the space at that very moment. Then you don't have time to worry about what's going to happen at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Or how I'm going to speak at that
Be
speech.
where your feet are.
Yes, be where your feet are. I like that. Is that something you made up?
I wish I could take credit for that, but I took that from somebody.
Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, so be where your feet are. I really like that. So I like that you said that, to be present for somebody else, but also for those people who are experiencing, you know, the issue of depression or anxiety. Mindfulness is huge, you know, understanding how to be present for yourself.
And also you have to find something to be grateful for. Oh. So if you're not grateful, if you're not thankful for anything, it will be extremely hard to take yourself out of a slump, out of a dark space. You have to be grateful for something. One thing I used to do, especially when I run or whatever, I would go out, like, you know, when I'm going through my spells, I do my night drives. I go out at night and I just drive down 95 until I'm ready to turn around. I might make it to North Carolina or something before I turn around. And I just drive, and I got to think with the sky, with the night sky. I'm always looking up at the night sky, see so many things flying past and all that, and animals. So in the daytime, I would just watch animals. You might see squirrels fighting or something. You see birds doing what they do. You'll see nature just naturing, and you'll realize they really have. There's a scripture that says the birds go out every day for food and eat. And they don't plan nothing.
They don't worry about it.
But God makes sure they eat. I'm looking at these animals, and you realize, man, these animals, like, they're not struggling like we are. And nothing's promised to them every day. They don't know, like, I'm going to eat. They just go out and they do. And you see them interacting with each other, doing those things. And when you just sit there and just observe those things, it's peaceful. You just looking at it, you just like, man, they just don't have the cares that I have in this world. And we don't realize that the cares that we have, many of them, I ain't say all of them, many of them aren't that serious. And I know that's subjective, but they're not that serious for us to allow them to weigh us down to the point where we just can't see nothing positive in life.
There's conditioning.
Yeah, I'm not saying all of them, because people do have situations where I lost both of my parents in a car accident. In one car accident, you lose your whole family. So I'm not saying situations like that. Yeah. But that's not, those aren't common occurrences. I'm talking about a lot of, I'm not even going to say specific situations. Yeah, I was going to say,
but definitely it's a lot of stuff that we worry about that we just don't even.
So you got to be grateful. Find something that you're grateful for, and you can hold on to that thing and build off. I'm not going to share this young lady's testimony because it's hers to share, but she started right there being grateful. And I told her, I said, man, I'm proud of you. And I told her right at that moment where she was like, man, I'm just grateful. Maybe things don't look like I wanted to look, but I just been in such a place where I'm just grateful. And I said, and God is going to bless you right from there. Watch. And he did exactly that. It's been like up, up, up. And I'm not trying to tell everybody to go fake your gratefulness and watch God bless you. This ain't no Benny Hinn or whatever the names is. I ain't them guys telling you do this and God's going to bless you. But one thing that I do know for sure, like when you can find yourself content in God, and be grateful, it is up from there because he changes your perspective. And your perspective is going to change your outcome. And he'll work miraculously in your life too.
Amen. I think that's a good note to end on. Yeah. So.
Well, how, you ain't tell us how you support.
I did, but I agree with you.
All right, well, cool.
I believe that being present, because it's really, it's not up to that you as the significant other to diagnose them
or heal them.
Yeah, like you don't even have that power, but just holding a space, for as much as you can, right? Providing resources if you can, but also not being pushy, things like that. Just being like you said, present.
And I do understand how it can weigh on you too, because the scripture does tell us, rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. We're supposed to be doing life together. That's like the definition of doing life together. And so I do know, like, if I see you and you hurt and you're down, Like, I'm down, and I understand you. I want to, like, man, I want to do something so that you're not in the slump. Like, what is it? And we just have to be cautious, like you said, to not kind of force anything, but even just to be present. And you have to have the emotional intelligence and emotional awareness to not allow it to make you depressed or something. Because your depression, me trying to be there for your depression, especially partners that just have that much love for each other and everything, you'll let that thing weigh you down, and you don't want to get to the point to where you're so spiritually oppressed and fighting depression and all these things, and then you get sick, and then I get sick too, and now we both don't have a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, we're not even serving each other. Like, we're not even serving ourselves or each other. Yeah. So yeah. Our next topic will be about gender roles. That should be very, very. I mean,
that's a good transition. That fits.
Totally. Yeah. Oh, fun. But thank you guys for watching and listening, in order to reach us. And we would love your feedback always.
Please.
I told
school us on this.
Yeah, I told one of my bros today about how people think that when they don't say anything that they're helping you. But sometimes, constructive criticism is like paramount, especially when it comes to being in servitude, because you care about the client, or you care about the person in which you're serving. So you want to do things that are effective.
Right.
So we would like to be as effective, as possible for you all. So Deep Skydiving Podcast at gmail.com. Deep Skydiving Podcast on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
No Facebook.
No Facebook.
Yeah, we don't have a Facebook.
That's right. We don't. Because I was like, no Facebook, right? That was me.
No Facebook.
No Facebook. Anyway, am I missing anything? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, Deep Skydiving Podcast on all the podcast platforms.
On all the podcasts.
Spotify,
anywhere
Apple
you listen to.
Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to.
And thank you for all our new listeners.
And subscribe
too.
And like and share.
Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Welcome to my channel.
Yes. I love you all for listening. Shout out to my cousin Chanel. She told me that she was just listening to the last What Did You Hear Me Say in regards to trust. I really appreciate that. And just all the people who have been so supportive, still, shouting out and bigging up our couples from What Did You Hear Me Say. We got some new things that we'll be, discussing and coming out with coming soon. So just stay tuned, y'all. And for real, just your support means so much to us. So we love y'all. And at the end of the day, we want them to do it.
Stay beautiful, my friends.
Make it work.